Hello, I'm Bob Harris. Welcome to Durman's educational series for industrial and decorative concrete flooring systems. Okay. All right, we sanded it with 100 grit with a palm sander. We just now vacuumed it, and just to be absolutely certain that it's clean, it's not a bad idea to just run a microfiber pad over it, dry, like you see here, and that just breaks any surface tension, and it gets ready for our next step, which is the Aquacolor. In the event that you had to damp mop it for whatever reason, perhaps a different tradesperson walked across the surface, keep in mind you have to use the appropriate amount of water, because if you just don't use enough water, it's going to streak. And oftentimes if it streaks and then you go to the next step with Aquacolor, that'll go through. So just be aware of that. Most times if you keep a clean surface, keep your boots clean with slip-on booties, for example, you really don't need to damp mop it. You can just come through with the microfiber pad like you see us using here. All right, we're getting ready to install our Aquacolor, and the color is functional gray. Just to recap, this unit right here was mixed into 1 gallon of water, so it's simple for mixing purposes. We put 1 gallon of clean water, dumped this in, took a stir stick, and put it in our sprayer. Refer back to some of the other Durman educational video series for staining techniques, just basic considerations such as you always want to start the tip of the sprayer in a bucket and then come onto your surface and start staining. And when you're done, before you leave off of the trigger, for good technique is to go back into the bucket and then you can let off on the trigger. Those are just basic staining techniques that help avoid unwanted drips from the sprayer. Make sure your sprayer is functional as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, make sure it's good. You can see the material is very porous, so it's accepting. We're going to demonstrate both techniques. If it's accepting of the material like you see here, you could probably just spray apply it because it's penetrating and absorbing in to the surface. However, if it's on concrete, it's not a bad idea to consider using a microfiber pad to break the surface tension of the Aquacolor so you don't see dots or speckles. So we're going to show both techniques right now. If you're going to microfiber pad it, you're literally just massaging the material in, as you see here. Our Aquacolor has had sufficient dry time, so now it's time to apply our first application of sealer, and we're putting the water-based A03 down. Coverage rates vary a little bit depending on what it is you're sealing. In this case, we're sealing the Perdure 5500, so you're probably going to be somewhere in the range of 250 square feet to 300 square feet per coat per gallon. On concrete, you might get a little bit more coverage than that. So it is a good idea to spray apply the A03 to reduce roller lines. In other words, this is a very porous material, so if we just dip and roll right out of the roller tray, there's a likelihood that you may get some roller marks. So to eliminate that, we're going to spray it first, and then Chris will follow behind and give me just a quick roll. On our Perdure 5500 self-leveling cement, we applied the A03 water-based acrylic, and roughly 2 to 3 hours has transpired, so it's dry, tack-free. Keep in mind, if it's working in the cooler months or in a damp environment, you may need to let the A03 dry a little longer, perhaps 4 or 5 hours. The logic is basically we're going to want all the moisture to flash out of the system and leave the film. If you apply it where there's still moisture within the A03 or it's too soon, and then we come back over the top of it with our E32 water-based epoxy, there's a chance that it could trap moisture and blush out or have the epoxy stay white or turn white. So we are getting ready to mix our E32 water-based epoxy. Just a couple of very important pointers, and we've already done this, but when you take the lid off, it's mandatory every time when you're going to use this product, go ahead and mix it with a drill. What happens is, and it's customary for water-based epoxies, sometimes you'll have sediment that goes to the bottom, which is natural, so don't think that something's wrong with the product, because it's not. So it is important to go ahead and thoroughly mix the residual that's settled down to the bottom. This mix ratio is 2 parts A to 1 part B. So in our cup, we have 32 ounces of the already mixed A side, and then in this cup, we have 16 ounces of the B side. So what is really important is you've got to honor what's referred to as an induction period. And what that means is we want the materials to fully catalyze. So when we put the B side into the A side, we're going to mix for 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to let that just stand and induct for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back, give it another spin for approximately 2 to 3 minutes, and then once we've mixed it that final time, we're ready to go on to the already applied A03. You're looking at a coverage rate with the water-based epoxy. Approximately 350 to 400 square feet is the coverage rate per gallon, per mixed gallon. So we're going to go ahead and mix this and then let it induct for or have the induction period for 30 minutes. All right, we've honored our 30-minute induction time on our E32 water-based epoxy. So we're going to go ahead and give it about a 2-minute mix, 2 to 3 minutes. We're using a 3/8 inch nap roller, and we're getting ready to roll down our E32 water-based epoxy. Remember, the coverage rate is between 350 to 400 square feet per coat per gallon. You really don't want to go thicker, say at 250 or even 300 square feet, because at that coverage rate, there's a chance that the material would be cloudy and not clear out. So honor the 350 square feet to 400 square foot range. we finished our application of E32 water-based epoxy, and we're going to give it approximately 4 to 5 hours dry time prior to our next application of U45 polyurethane top coat. Keep in mind, in cooler conditions or in a damp environment like a basement, for example, you may need to wait a little bit longer, perhaps 6 or 7 hours, to make sure it's thoroughly dry prior to putting that last polyurethane top coat. All right, 4 hours has transpired since we've rolled down our E32 water-based epoxy. You can see here, looks great. So now we're going to come back over the top of that with U45, which is a matte version of a water-based polyurethane. It's a 4-to-1 mix ratio. You can see right here, it's already pre-weighed out gallon container with this guy, mixes in a full gallon. The coverage rate is going to be approximately 350 to 400 square feet per coat per gallon. As an alternative, if you're concerned about increasing the abrasion resistance in addition to some slip resistance, Duraman offers a slip-resistant anti-skid additive. It comes in a superfine version, a fine version, a medium version, and a coarse version. And approximate ratio is approximately 6 ounces of the material per mixed gallon. Since we're only doing 32 square feet, we didn't want to mix the whole 4-to-1 ratio. So for that reason, we have a smaller cup with 4 parts A to 1 part B, and we're going to mix it for between 3 to 4 minutes. You've got a working time, open time of approximately 45 minutes at 70 degrees. We're going to put our U45 matte polyurethane top coat down. It is okay to use a 1/4 inch snap roller. We have a 3/8 snap roller. Just because the Param 5500 was put down so nice and smooth, so it doesn't have a lot of texture, so you could actually get away with using a 1/4 inch snap roller if you choose to. I'm just getting the material down quickly, and then I'll come back and touch it up with a back roll. So I'm just trying to get it out onto the surface. On my back roll, I'll have a lot more finesse. So the proper rolling technique, when I roll, I'm going to be working that way. So I'm going to feather edge my roller cover like this. I'm never going to do this and then come this way because I'm more prone to leave a line here. So actually, there's a definite technique to how you roll. And I'm going to be twisting the handle ever so slightly when I make this direction. When I roll it back out, I'm putting more pressure on that side, thus feather edging the left side. And that way you get much less roller lines when you do that. Also too, to avoid roller lines, it's not a bad idea to do one last quick dry roll with a dry roller cover, which is Chris will demonstrate just as soon as I get this last pass right here. Now I am going to turn the roller cover this way just to get tight to the edge. Okay. Our matte U45 water-based polyurethane coat has been rolled down. Typically, you're going to want to wait a minimum of 24 hours before you can walk on it. In cooler conditions or humid conditions like a basement, for example, you may want to wait a day and a half up to 2 days just to make sure that that urethane has had sufficient cure time.